Yeah, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bigfoot Tales. I'm your host, D.L.Soucy, coming to you from the coastline of Maine, and hope you're able to check out um, some of the videos that I've been putting up, and especially the March Hunt for Bigfoot. A couple of compelling tracks in there that I believe one of them places very high in my collection of prints, anyways, as being a potential track for this creature. Is 16 inches long and about 6 inches wide. Very definite toe impressions and everything on it. But today, we're going to talk about a story, and I've titled this one An Australian Bigfoot Encounter. I'm sure we're all aware of the Australian Yowie and the hairy man stories coming from that continent. But a lot of people don't really know how old the story is. But I came across the other day, while I was doing some research, an article from a newspaper called the Timaru Herald. It's from February 3rd of 1877, so it's a very, very old story, and it's came about in one of those time periods where we hear a lot of stories about the hairy man and wild man of the woods, and these creatures make their reappearances. And I haven't done the full research on an analysis because there's just so much out there that I haven't been able to extrapolate with any degree of certainty the answers that I'm looking for. But I have a suspicion that we usually have a influx or a spike in the stories of these creatures of about a cycle of about 30 years in time, anywhere from 25 to 35 years in length. But it seems to me that about every 3 decades we get a lot more stories of this creature coming into being. Not really sure why. Again, there's just so much out there, and I haven't had and I don't have the resources to collect all the information I want. But anyhow, I'm doing that digressing thing again. But so let's grab a hold of our passports and climb on the plane up in the Bangor International Airport and fly the friendly skies towards the continent of Australia. And we'll take a look at this Australian Bigfoot encounter from 1877. Again, this the title of this article is called A Wild Man of the Woods. And again, it's from the Timaru Herald, volume 26, issue number 1644, from 3 February 1877. It was found on page 3 of that paper. And let's get right into the article here. The author writes, the Milburn Creek correspondent of the Sunday Evening News, under date the 11th November 1876, writes as follows. Who has not heard from the earliest settlement of the colony, the blacks speaking of some unearthly animal or human creature that inhabited some of the wildest, inaccessible, rugged, and sequestered haunts of Rocky Mountains and gorges in the colony, namely, the Yahoo Devil, or the hairy man of the wood, which to this day they stand in fearful awe and terror of. I, for one, sympathize with the superstitions or aboriginal sayings of those wild and unsophisticated denizens of the Australian bush, that that there are aboriginal tradition of such unearthly mongrels of monsters have and do exist, though so rare and not as yet often seen or believed in by white men. 14 days ago, and not more than 10 miles from here, towards the head of the Lachlan River on Coolamba Station, or Hemans, in one of the most secluded and melancholy-looking spots imaginable, imperceptibly a terror of awe creeps over every one who has to pass through this far and wide-known gorge or death chasm of the river. While a lad of the name of Porter, a son of Porter, a settler on the Lachlan, was shepherding a flock of his father's sheep near to the dismal rocky bridge or gorge, as so called, An unhuman, unearthly-looking being was seen by the lad coming directly towards him from the high, rugged, and precipitous rocks. The dogs, on observing such an unknown monster, would not attack. They became timid and crouched around the lad's legs, who became horror-struck with fear. He left the sheep to their fate and ran together with his collies for home. On relating the inhuman sight he had seen, he was not credited by the father and others at home. They, however, at last mustered courage and went to the exact place described, but could find or see nothing of the hairy man. On Saturday last, however, a fishing party of young men and young women went to the Rocky Bridge waterholes for a night's sport. These waterholes are famed far and near for quality and quantity of fish. It is customary for those bent on good sport to remain for the night, and as a matter of course, a large fire is made. On the evening of this memorable day, 2 hours before sundown, the young men and some of the young women went to set their lines, leaving one of their young friends to boil the billy and prepare supper. While thus engaged, a young woman was suddenly startled in observing a man, as she naturally imagined, at first sight, one of their own party coming towards the fire, but, on walking closer, discovered the appearance to be unsightly and inhuman, appearing in every way the shape of a man, with a big red face, hands and legs covered with long, shaggy hair. From fright, she became almost spellbound. She screamed and screeched, but was unable to run. The men, on hearing such unearthly cries, left their fishing lines and ran with all speed towards their comrade. On reaching the fire, the monster of alarm was only distant some 50 yards. On their appearing, it stood for a minute or two and turned away and made for the rocks. 2 of the men armed themselves with a tomahawk and cudgel and followed this extraordinary phenomenon of nature for a short distance up the rocky and rugged mountain, when suddenly it turned around and stood viewing the men as they were approaching. They also halted, being then about 60 yards from the object of terror, commanding a full view of his whole shape and make, resembling that of a big, slovenly man. The head was covered with dark, grisly hair, the face with shaggy, darkish hair, the back and belly and down the legs, covered with hair of a lighter color. The devil, or whatever it may be called, doubled around and hurriedly made back towards the fire and woman again. On seeing him coming, a fearful commotion ensued amongst the females, and a kind of supernatural terror among the men took place. In the meantime, before reaching the camp, it sighted away towards the inaccessible Rocky Mountain. The names of 2 of the men who witnessed and took part in the same are Porter and Dunn, well-known settlers on the Abercrombie and Lachlan rivers. Mr. Lehner, another settler from the Lachlan, was informed the other day that the neighbors all around have organized a party to go search of the human monster and hunt him down, dead or alive. It has not been many weeks ago that I recorded the remains of a similar animal or creature being found in the Walla Walla scrub. It is well known to the old settlers for the last 30 years that the blacks will never camp within miles of this death-like chasm of the Lachlan, though they come distances every year to fish in the adjoining waterholes, but leave before sundown to camp miles away. Whether this is the black veritable Yahoo devil, or the white man hairy ape of the woods, time, it is hoped, will now shortly tell. Okay, and that's the end of the article. And again, this relates what down under they call the Yahoo or devil. Generally today, the common term is Yahoo. But if you listen to the description, aside from the big red face, the description of this Yahoo is almost identical to many of the sighting reports we have here of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot right here in the United States and Canada. It's kind of interesting that such a distance and so many continents away, especially one that is totally surrounded by water the way it is, that a creature would be there with some of the same attributes as what we have as a creature here in the North American continent. So I'm kind of led to believe that this is quite likely the same thing. All through the years, we've heard some of these stories off and on. But like I said, it appears to me that every 30 years or so, we have a flurry of reports and accounts of these creatures. For some reason, I'm not sure whether it has to do with their reproduction cycle. Perhaps maybe they're long-lived, and they kick the kids out of the nest when they reach about 30 years, and so we have a bunch of youngsters running around every 30 years. Or it could be that they only mate every 30 years. Don't really know what it is, but this seems to be, and I might be wrong here. Again, I don't have the resources to get all the information that I'd like to have on this for the database, but perhaps a listener has the time and the capabilities of taking all of these reports and mapping them out and extrapolating some of this statistics to find out whether I'm right or not. But during the 1870s, there was a lot of sightings of various things. Again, the early 1900s, and then again around 1930. In fact, a little piece by the United Press out of Kelso, Washington, from August 10th of 1929 has a short article titled "Apes Reported in Washington Wilds." I'm going to read this real quickly for you. The Mount St. Helens apes have been seen again. They first became known to the civilized world several years ago when a party of miners claimed that their cabin had been bombarded with rocks by the purported ape men. Fred Bradley, who spends most of his time in the Mount St. Helens district, has informed Jack Nelso, proprietor of St. Helens Lodge at Spirit Lake. He claims they visit a cave on Bear Creek, a tributary of Lewis River, at intervals of 6 or 7 years. The cave opens on a sheer cliff at a height of 250 feet from the creek bed, and Bradley thinks there's a secret entrance to the cave. So this some interesting things there. And again, this is 1929 when this was reported. Right around 1900 to 1905, I found another flurry of articles that talk about these apes. But again, these stories that we have just keep recycling over and over and over again. But the descriptions of this creature have always been the same. We have the stories that have been retold by a couple of the ones that I've read to you from C.A. Stevens. Occurred about the probably right around 1830. It's hard to tell. And again, there was another flurry about 1850. And then again, you get this flurry, especially standing out in my mind is this one from Australia. They're distanced, so far away from each other that it's hard to believe that some sort of they call a mass hallucination could take place in those days. The telegraph wasn't as prevalent in 1877 around the world as one might think it was, and some of these people who sometimes take days and days and days to read newspapers, if they ever read them at all, a lot of the stories were very old and outdated by the time they read them, so it's kind of hard to believe that this was actually a result of some other story being told. But I'm going to wrap that up today. Again, another short story, and we'll see you next time on Bigfoot Tales. And don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and check out my new book, Sasquatch, Searching for the Answer, and also my previous book, Legends of Maine. And go to Yahoo groups, Maine Bigfoot Research, and see what's going on in the state of Maine for Bigfoot research. Have a good day.